question number 8 is going to ask us to have an input matrix A, and I and J are going to reference certain rows. So if I is equal to 1, it's going to reference row 1, and if J is equal to 2, it's going to reference row 2, and we want to swap these rows and then make this into B. So the first thing you got to do is write off our function. So we're going to say function output is B, and assign it to swap row of A, I, J. That's how we write 3 inputs. And if I and J, or I or J, exceed the amount of rows that we have, right, which it says right here, which is M, we're just gonna have an original A unaltered, which means we're just gonna put B back. We're gonna make B just equal to A. So we're gonna say if I is greater than, or actually, hold up, how are we supposed to know how many rows we have? So let's think about it. If we want to figure out how many rows we have or how many columns we have to find the dimensions of A. So we say, let's say brackets R and C, put a space, equals size of A. And that way we can get the dimensions. And then we can say if I is greater than R or J is greater than R, then we can just say B equal to A. That makes it a lot easier. Then else, so if both of these are fine, then we can start doing our for loop. So first I want to pre-allocate B to A. So I want to get the matrix in first before I even do anything to it. Then after I do that, then I'm going to start my for loop where I'm going to use my iterary K. I'm going to go 1 through columns. So I want to do all of the swapping through every single column. Because if we have, for example, row 2 and row 3, and we're swapping columns 1 through everything, we're going to swap those entire rows, and that's exactly what we want. So I'm going to say, so as K's, which is representing the columns going through 1 through C, we're going to say B of row I, column K, so K is going to represent the first time, column 1, is going to equal to A of row J, column K, and then we're going to say B of J, K, is equal to A of I, K. Right? That way, whenever we have row I and whichever column that we're on is going to replace it with the same value of where A essentially has that value in J, and we're going to replace it with B of I. So let me say that again. I messed that up. If B of row I, column K, is a certain value, we want to replace it with A of row J, column K, which is the same column. We're swapping it, flipping it. And since we did that with row I, we got to do the same thing with row J. And then we're going to end that for statement. And then we're going to end that if statement. And then we're going to end our function. And that way, we got the whole thing. So if we review what this just said, we have our function call, then we have our dimensions, and then we're checking if I and J is greater than R to make sure that nothing happens. And then else, we're going to pre-allocate B to A, make sure we got that matrix in first before we start making changes to specific rows. Then we're going to say for K of 1 through C, so we're going to say that for every single column that we're going through, we're going to change the value in row I of that column to the value of row J of that column, and basically vice versa. Then we're going to end that for statement, and so we're going to end that if statement, we're going to end that function, and that way we have done number 8. We're going to test if our function swap row works. So I'm going to show you my matrix A. So this is my matrix A. Then we're going to call it by saying swap row, and then I'm going to put my 3 inputs. So A, I'm going to put for I, I'm going to put row 2, I'm going to put row 3. We want to swap row 2 and 3 together. And if we put this, it's going to show us all the changes that happened since we did not suppress these. It's going to show us our dimensions here. And our final answer will have row 2 and row 3 swapped. So we made sure that it worked. Now let's make sure that if I and J essentially exceed row R, or how many rows that we have, that it doesn't work. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to say row 4, but we don't have a row 4. So it should just give us an answer of our original A, which is our original A correctly. So it does work.